Hey there, welcome to the Hey Kahla Podcast. I am your host, Kayla Evans, and in this week's episode, we are talking all about regret. That awful, heavy, painful feeling when you think you've made the wrong decision and now you are completely stuck and absolutely hating it. And if you've ever been there or you're there right now, then you know there is no worse feeling than making a decision that you believe to be wrong that has thrown you so far off your path that you do feel like you've absolutely ruined your life. Which sounds a little dramatic, yes, but it is so freaking common. So many people I know or have met have told me stories like that. And that's honestly, side note, one of the best things about being introverted. Generally, you like deeper, more juicy conversations with people. So either strangers will open up to you and share some of their bigger stuff, or your other introverted friends will. And it's absolutely awesome because that's how you really get to know people on a much deeper level. But back to these stories, they suck, right? Because they're either keeping us stuck and stalled out, or they're, maybe worse, keeping us in pain and suffering, and nobody deserves that, and I do not want that for anyone. So this episode, it was actually inspired by a lovely conversation that I had last weekend sitting around my dining room table with one of my besties and my mama. One of my besties came into town to Manitoba for a visit, and her and I have been friends for years, but we first met during what I like to call the best years of my life. So last weekend we chatted away about the people we knew and the things we used to do, and we looked at old pictures and videos, and we were laughing and sharing all these amazing memories, and it was so beautiful. It really choked me up at times, and it took me right back to those good old days, right? It was when I was in this period of my life where I had been living my absolute dream life for years. I was so in love with every area of my life. I mean, I had my dream job. I loved my house. I loved my friends. Literally everything from the yoga studio that I used to go to on Saturday mornings to my favorite coffee shop on Broad Street, my hairstylist, who turned out to be that bestie that came to visit that I was sitting with around the table, to my neighborhood, to the route I used to take when I walked my dog Harley at the time. I loved it. I wouldn't have changed a single thing. And again, it's what I remember anyway as being the happiest time of my life. There were days I couldn't believe this was my life. I had everything I had ever wanted. I was the happiest, most fulfilled person I knew. And I can honestly say I had no intention of ever leaving. I thought I was going to die there. I was going to be at that network until I retired. I was going to live in that town until I passed. I was going to be buried in a cemetery outside of town. I was there. But I'm obviously here. So I chose to walk away from it all to move back to Manitoba to save a relationship I was in at the time, which did not end up working out, let me tell you. So not only did I give up everything I loved, but I felt like I had also lost the only thing I had here. The only reason why I was here no longer existed. And it was dark. And I actually believed I had burnt my whole life to the ground in 2018. I actually called it burning my life down. When I think about it in my head, I still refer to it as that. When I talk to my friends, when I talk to my therapist at the time, that was the period of my life. I burnt my life down. And that kicked off this period of mourning for my former life. As dramatic as that sounds, I was in so much pain. I absolutely hated it. I hated everything. I was not a happy camper. I was living in my mom's basement, which I love her and I love living with her. She's my favorite roommate I've ever had. But it wasn't my beautiful house that I had that I enjoyed being in so much. And if you know me, you know how I feel about my home environment. I was working a job that I didn't enjoy, and honestly, I never really liked. There were some moments here and there where I liked the job, and I definitely love a lot of my coworkers at the time. But I was miserable because it was nothing compared to where I was coming from. And this province also felt so foreign to me, even though I was born and raised here. I was missing my friends back where I came from. I hadn't really made any new ones here yet. And it was just this really sad, heavy, dark time for me, 2018, 2019. And then, of course, we all know in 2020, the pandemic hit. So, I wasn't feeling any better. And I do want to say, I know I am very lucky and blessed and privileged that I had a family that took me in while I figured my shit out. And I'm so lucky that I was able to actually find another job in my industry, TV and radio at the time. so that I could continue working in my field and on my craft. I didn't, have to go take another job completely out of my realm. And of course, I had my health, which I'm grateful for every day. So I know how silly and maybe pitiful and ungrateful I sound right now, but I feel like that's a good thing. Like, I'm coming out of it, right? But if you're in it right now, like, maybe you know this feeling, like nobody can tell you anything. You know you have so much to be grateful for in your life, but your emotions over what you're missing are so strong that like it's all you can focus on. And back then, I constantly felt so much regret. And I think it was so heavy because it was my decision. Like, I was the one that chose to walk away from all of that. Like, nobody held a gun to my head. It's not like I got fired. It's, thank goodness, it's not like somebody got sick and I had to move home to look after anybody. I moved home to Manitoba for a man. Like, I chose to do this. I did this to myself. And that made me feel guilty. And I thought for so long, like, if I could just have one wish, if I could just go back, like, I would choose to stay where I was. And there's actually a video posted on my Instagram, if you haven't seen it yet. It's me saying goodbye on air, on TV, on one of the TV shows I was on at the time. And I can barely watch it back because I can just tell in my eyes and on my face, like, I did not want to do it. Like, it's a really shitty goodbye. It's like very half-hearted because I didn't want to say goodbye. I didn't want to leave. I just did it because I felt like I had to, because that relationship was a marriage and I was moving home to save my marriage. And for years, I lived in this regret and I believed that I had made the wrong decision to leave my beautiful life behind. Coffee break. But then, let me tell you, this is where it shifted for me. And there were two really big reasons I believe why it shifted. First, I took complete responsibility for my own life and my own decisions, which is painful. It's really hard to look at your own bullshit and be like, wow, I'm sick of my own shit. And maybe that's a separate podcast. Like, we'll get into that another day because that's a pretty deep one. But the other thing that I'll share right now is how I shifted my mindset. And there's three really big pillars that I kind of focused on, or that I ended up focusing on, that I'll share with you here. I love Louise Hay and Abraham Hicks, and I was taking in a lot of that content at the time. And one day it just like clicked for me. I didn't actually make like a wrong decision. I just made a decision. Like, I made a choice, and turns out that choice actually didn't make me all that happy. But the whole time I was making another choice to believe that I had made that wrong decision, that I had made a massive mistake. So I freed myself up to make more decisions without the fear of getting it wrong because I decided to see these choices as neutral. So that's the first decision. I saw no right, no wrong, just a choice. So I moved houses, 8 houses in 5 or 6 years. I quit the job that was no longer serving me. I forced myself to get out and make friends, go to events, live the life. And today I am much happier. And honestly, I'm the happiest I've been since I've been back in Manitoba since 2018. I don't know if I'm as happy as I was back in like 2015 or 2016 or 2017. And that still makes me a little bit sad to say. But because I have completely changed my view on regret and making mistakes, I feel a lot more hopeful. And I also feel a lot braver and stronger to make a million mistakes until I find the ones that make me happy, because I don't want to live any more of my life in regret. Like, again, took responsibility. I'm sick of my shit. I'm sick of living in regret. So I don't want to live like that anymore. So these days, I don't think you actually make a wrong decision. You make a decision or a choice at the time based on what you know and based on what you think is going to be best, right? Like, I don't think any of us purposely choose a thing that's going to make us unhappy. I mean, maybe if we're self-sabotaging. But I'm in that place right now where I'm just trying to make the best decision I can every day. And I've really learned that when it comes to my business. Like, you just go with what you think is best. And I truly believe, and this is the second thing, that mistakes or failures are just information. They're stepping stones, they're breadcrumbs leading me to where I want to go. So decisions are neutral and mistakes are just lessons, right? Like, you don't fail, you just win or you learn. And then I mentioned earlier that Louise Hay and Abraham Hicks, like, they really helped me rewire these thoughts and feelings about regrets and mistakes. They've rewired my brain about a lot of things. But I constantly have cards or Post-it notes. I meditate, I tap, and I remind myself all the time, like, all is good. Or There is only a stream of well-being that flows. You can accept it or you can resist it, but it flows just the same. That's one of my other favorites. Another one I have posted, I think, in my kitchen is, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. I love, what else? What's meant for you will not miss you. Rejection is redirection, or rejection is protection. So feel free to borrow these if you need them. Again, post them wherever you can see them. Just kind of helps you out. Another thing that really helps me break out of the spiral that I find myself in, like if I'm getting caught up in those negative thoughts, or if I'm feeling stressed out or the pressure building up, because life gets messy, right? Is I remind myself, and this was huge for me, everything that's happened over the last 5 or 6 years, it's led me to who I am today. And even though I'm not 100% like, I love everything, who I am today is bringing me to who I'm going to be in 5 years. And that gives me a lot of peace, because I'm so hopeful for who Kahla is going to be in 5 years that I'm okay with where I am right now. And then if worse comes to worse, so I guess actually maybe I have 4 things to share with you. Like you're at the end and you're like, I can't do this anymore. You really only have 2 choices. Fall down, give up, give in, or make another decision, make another choice, and just keep moving. Like it's one or the other. You quit and you give up, or you get up and you keep going. Like those are your choices, right? So those are really the 4 things that really helped me break out of this kind of mind frame. I'm interested in what you think, where you stand on this. Do you think there are right or wrong decisions? Do you think you can totally burn your life down by making a decision, or you think you're neutral, or if you think something else? Feel free to add to this convo anytime. You can DM me on Insta. You can send me an email, info@heykahla.com. For anything and everything else, again, my website, heykahla.com. You can find a ton of stuff there. Or if you have ideas on anything you want to hear on the podcast, you can always email me. Again, info@heykahla.com. And thank you just as always for hanging out with me, sharing your time with me. And I hope you have the best day.